Better late than never. Here we are. It's a Warchant happy hour. I'm Aslan. It's the Brady Bunch. I think we go Ira there, Corey there, and then Gene Williams, founder administrator of Warchant.com down there. They can't see me. You guys can see me. We can see everybody though. That's a good thing. So this was somebody's idea on the Warchant Tribal Council. They wanted to see us talk, have fun. So we're here to talk and have fun. Gene, how are you, man?
Doing all right, man. I just popped a nice Hell's Porter from Grumpy Old Man Brewing, and it's 5 o'clock on a Friday. I'm sitting at the old man cave bar, so good times.
Bring it back, the man cave. Oh, how we miss thee. Folks, you're supposed to get involved in this. This was your guys' idea. You wanted to hang out and talk to us. So you can post your messages either on YouTube here, on the Tribal Council, or you can give us a phone call. 850-792-5730, or otherwise known as 850-5-YAKS30. Corey remembers that one. Corey, how are you?
I do. I'm good, buddy. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Kind of rushed in from the workout that I had to put this all together. I thought it'd be ready to go. Start a little bit late, but it's fine. That's how we roll. That's how you roll, right? You're a casually late arriving guy.
I feel like I get on time more often than not. I'm mostly on time, I'd say. I don't want to put that out there that I'm late. I wouldn't say I'm late. I'm not as early as Ira is. Let's put it that way.
Well,
Ira's always early. I'm just less early.
You stole my segue. Ira's always on time. Ira operates on the Tom Coughlin clock. Show up early, you're on time. Show up on time, you're late. Show up late, don't even bother. How are you, Ira?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good. So back when I was a kid, like my dad was crazy early for everything. Like if we had to pick up somebody at the airport, like his plane never come in 45 minutes early or 2 hours early. But my sister would fly in. She'd fly home from college from DC to Miami, and her flight was supposed to be arrive at like 8 o'clock, and we'd be at Miami International Airport at like 6 or 6:15. And it would drive me nuts. And then now I kind of do the same thing. So I've turned into my old man. That's kind of just what happens.
As we all do.
Hey, I'm going to work on putting our phone number up on the screen so people can call in. Our first question comes from a Mario Williams 1, Williams 13. Might be the longest screen name in the history of YouTube. We'll start with you, Gene. Which freshman do you guys see having the biggest impact on the team this season?
Oh boy.
Can we count Travis J? Does he count as a redshirt freshman?
Oh, red shirts. Oh, okay.
True, or you're good.
Well, if we can count red shirts, I'm gonna go with Travis J. If I have to go one of the true newcomers, freshmen, I'd say maybe the running back that Norvell was so excited about, the kid from Pinellas Park.
Okay.
Oh,
what's his name?
Corbin.
No. The kid.
That's a
Tofili.
linebacker.
Lawrence Tofili.
Oh.
Lawrence Tofili. He was the one that isn't he the one that Norvell said was the first call he made when he got the job.
Was to him.
No, that was before they got. That
was before they got the A&M kid, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Chubba Purdy.
Calling your shot.
Answer. That's my answer. Chubba.
Well, then I'm going to go contrary. I'm going to go devil's advocate. I'm going to go Tate Rodmaker. So just to what we've already put down our gauntlets, Corey. It's Tate versus Chubba.
All right, yeah. I think Chubba got a big. It hasn't worked out for anyone except for maybe Chubba. What's going on right now? He'll come in on the same level as Tate, and they really like that.
So I'm not feeling a lot of love for James Blackman from this crew right now. If you guys are each picking a quarterback that's a freshman, and not the guy who started like 20 games.
I think Blackman might be so good that they're up big in the third and fourth quarter, and so Chubba's going to get a lot of mop-up duty, but get to show off his skills. And so he here.
Stole Chubba Purdy from me already. Thanks, man.
Yeah. How about Steven Dix Jr.? I think he's got a good shot as well.
That's a good one.
Australian runner. Alex Massimano. Final answer.
There you go. That's a good call.
I don't know. I'm trying to think freshman. I'm sure someone's asked this on Wake Up Warchant, and we've deliberated over it. But there's no one that jumps to mind right now. pick the punter.
Yeah.
I did think Purdy. I went on Purdy Allen for a minute, but then I was like, not enough time to get prepared. But who's preparing right now, guys? I don't know about your Publix. My Publix now is one-way aisles. So there's signs that literally.
Oh, really?
The sign says this way, and if you're going the opposite way, which I did because I didn't realize what was going on, there's a red sign that says you are going the wrong way with a big X.
I like
We're
that.
148 days away from the kickoff. My grocery stores turned to one-way aisle traffic. So
That's so we can get the kickoff, Aslan. It's so we can get the kickoff. Got to do everything we can.
all right, we got a guy by the name of Gator Kirk, but I think he
Oh,
might have sincere intentions. I don't know. What impact do you believe the commitment of the defensive end Williams from Baylor will have on the defense? Ira, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say for sure. I mean, it's a nice pickup from the standpoint of, they can use more depth and more guys that can play multiple positions. I think the interesting talking point with that signee or commitment is that it's a guy who is kind of a tweener. He's played defensive end at Baylor, but he's not a big guy. He's listed at 6'1". I think they list him at 220. He might be a little bit heavier now, but it's not like an every down typical prototype, 4-3 defensive end. And in Adam Fuller's defense, he's got kind of a hybrid defensive end linebacker, so maybe he fits that role. The other thing I think that tells me is, I think we all assume that there's going to be some people leaving the program during the offseason. Gene, when you did that scholarship breakdown back in the spring, weren't they at 85, like after the signing period?
Yeah, they're right. They're really close. They're right in that ballpark. So yeah, you'd have to assume some attrition. You never know. I mean, there were some rumors about Kane, remember, about what his situation would be. And I never really heard anything specifically that he would be gone. But you never know. I mean, after him and Robinson, there's just not much depth there. And maybe even for like a third down guy to come in, maybe the transfer, maybe that's what Fuller's looking at him for.
Yeah, based on what he did at Baylor, it's not like you'd say, okay, this is definitely a guy who is going to step right in and solve all your issues. The nice thing is if he is a grad transfer, which it looks like he is, he was there for 4 years, then he's a guy that can play right away. Corey, you remember his dad, right? Alfonso Williams?
Yeah, old Alley Cat, who I believe was really good friends with Dion. I think Alfonso Williams' most famous play was in the 87 1-point loss to Miami. He returned a block punt for a touchdown in that game. I think that put them up 19-3. And if memory serves, this is really weird that I would remember this. I'm almost positive Burt Reynolds was in the booth with Musburger just being interviewed when that happened. And he got really excited on the call because Florida State had just scored again to go up 19-3. So that was it's crazy. I never remember to take out the trash. I don't remember who my ex-wife is. But I remember that Burt Reynolds was in the booth with Musburger but I remember who and Pat Hayden was the color analyst.
I'm
almost positive.
I like when you do the visual. It's like Karnak or something. Like you're like dragging it out.
Yeah, I just put an envelope on my head.
Gator Kirk has clarified that he is a huge Knowles fan. I just ordered an FSU jersey for my dog, and Corey could be my little brother with bald head and goatee. Well, then why the name Gator Kirk? Let me know
That's
that,
the real
Gator
question.
Kirk.
Look, this isn't an inquisition. We'll let it ride.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad you guys answered the question for Corey and I because I haven't done my research on the transfer yet. But thanks for the history lesson, Corey. We all appreciate it.
You got it. And also, what was I gonna say? I just forgot my train of thought. Never mind.
Thanks for jumping in and then forgetting all.
Oh no, I remember what I was gonna say. I hope the kid's good. We all hope he's good. But how does Florida's best defensive player last year was a grad transfer from Louisville, right? Didn't he lead them in sacks? Yep. Whatever that defense end's name was.
Yep.
Florida State can't get one of them. No, one of these kids that gets bored with 12 sacks a year and wants to come down and play at Florida State. They get a kid that hadn't played in a year and a half. I hope he's awesome. But I think Ira's point is the correct one. It seems like it was just more of for depth purposes. But, we haven't seen him play. We don't know. He might be great.
Jonathan
probably
Bernard,
won't be.
He talked to us at ACC Media Days. That was a guy from Florida.
Yeah, good kid, too.
Random thoughts with Terrence Conway. 2005 Florida State Miami gets lost for being an ugly game. But being there, experiencing that win was a huge weight off of our shoulders. Will our next win against Clemson feel as good as that win? Ooh, that's a good question, Terrence. Sorry, I didn't mean to diminish you from the jump. What do you think, Gene? Next time Florida State beats Clemson, will it be as cathartic as that 2005 muff?
Man, I sure hope we see it in my lifetime, the way things look right now. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, obviously, they've got a run going on Florida State. They own them right now. I think, yeah, you're right. I remember that 2005 when that thing got muffed. My favorite vision of that was David Castillo, who had lost, I think, 5 straight years. And it's his hometown. I mean, grew up in Palm Beach, so that was the team. Everybody was there. Now, if you guys remember that game, you remember what David Castillo did. It looked like Bjorn Borg winning Wimbledon. He went down on his knees and just prayed to God that finally he'd beat Miami. So I mean that's my memory from that game. But I think for fans and maybe even some of the players, it'll be the same moment when that happens. Hopefully it's sometime in the next 5 to 10 years.
Corey, you remember the Osceola or headline on the Osceola from that edition? I know you weren't working there, but we talked about it at the time because we went with "A muff is enough." The muff kick. And it was that was kind of, I mean, that was the whole thing. It was fitting that they finally beat them, and they beat them with Miami blowing an extra point or a field goal.
I thought you were going to go with, I thought initially the headline was "Sweet, Sweet Muff," and then you changed it to "A muff is enough."
I'm breaking up. I didn't hear what you said.
Okay, sorry. I was going to say when it comes to that, it would also, I feel like, be a lot like the 2010 win over Florida. Like, remember that? Like how cathartic that was. That beat Urban Meyer in the streak. What was that streak? 6 in a row, right? Since 04, yeah. I think they lost every time. So for them to win after 6 years, I think that's a. Is that me or y'all?
We got a call. We got a call. Let's see what's going to happen here.
Oh,
I don't know if you guys can hear. Let's see.
Answer.
Oh, did I pick it up? Oh, I think it dropped. It dropped.
But
hey,
wrong number.
But we do have a voicemail. Somebody called in and left a voicemail while you guys were talking earlier. Let's go ahead and rip this off.
All right.
Yeah, hi, this is Mark from Naples, Florida, otherwise known as Mad AMCZ on Wake Up Warchant. I'm drinking a vodka with some sparkling water, just keeping it simple, sitting in the pool with my wife. Hot and sunny down here. My favorite FSU moment, believe it or not, I became friends with Chris Ricks through a booster golf tournament a few years ago. And super guy. I know he's taken his share of criticism as a quarterback, but we reenacted the Ricks to PK Sam touchdown pass down the middle of the fairway, and it was a beautiful play. And I didn't pull it off quite as good as they did, but it was still good because we beat the Gators in a fantasy pass. So thanks for all the good work you guys do, and we hope to getting back to normalcy real soon. Go Noles. Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Oh, great story. And, hey, guys, Corey, do you know about a little over a month ago, PK Sam was at our favorite watering hole.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah, I was surprised. I just looked over at the high top next to me, and there's PK sitting with a couple people. Went over. Great, really accommodating, great guy. Of course, we had to relive that moment in 2000. And he said one thing that freaked him out, if you remember the end of that play in the end zone when he walks in, remember that German Shepherd almost bit his ass.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like Uga with the Auburn guy from the mid-'90s, the Robert Baker, whoever that was for Auburn, where Uga tried to attack him after a touchdown.
Yeah, so that was it was great catching up with, and I wanted to relive that in corner pocket and me go wide and make that play, but that probably wouldn't have worked out too well.
Probably not.
I think someone just tried to call again. Here we go. So they're going to call. I think you guys are going to be able to hear him or her.
Okay.
But they won't be able to hear you. But they'll be able to hear me. So we just have to deal with it.
That's fine.
All right, go for it.
Hey, you're the first ever live caller on the Warchant Happy Hour. Who is this?
What's up, guys? It's Jordan from Atlanta. How are you?
Jordan from Atlanta. What's up, man?
What's up? Appreciate you guys doing this. I had a quick question.
Okay.
My father, my stepdad actually, is Paul Mcgowan. And
nice.
He's a real humble dude. He doesn't like to talk about his glory days at Florida State. So I wanted to call in and see if you guys had any interesting stories to share from his time in Tallahassee.
All right, well, Jordan, check this out. Gene, Ira, and Corey, they can hear you, but you're not going to be able to hear them. So maybe you're going to want to hang up and listen to this like we're doing an actual radio talking show.
That works, man. Appreciate
All right,
you
man,
guys.
appreciate it, man. What are you sipping on, by the way? All right, never mind. He hung up on me. That's fine. Corey.
You can't tell him to hang up and then ask him a question, Aslan.
Well, sometimes there's a little bit of a lag. Tell us your favorite Paul McGowan story, Corey. Regale all of us.
So I don't know if I have a favorite story. I just remember he was the first national award winner from Florida State. He won the '87 Butkus. He was awesome. He was the prototypical middle linebacker. And I feel like he won that award by like 2 votes. It was really, really slim over Chris Spielman. And what was cool about that was that Spielman was the huge star in college football. I think he probably finished up there in the Heisman Trophy voting. He was just a really publicized dude and a really good linebacker. But Florida State fans back then were always like, hey, man, number 38 for us is really, really good, too. And it was cool that he got that he got that award. He got that notoriety. Because until then, you weren't sure that people around the country knew. But that season, that was the dynasty season that started off in '87. And Paul McGowan, you'd look at the numbers after a game, and I was 12. Like you're not really following inside linebackers play to play, but you'd look at the stats at the end of the game, and you have 19 tackles or 17 tackles. You're like, oh my, that guy is everywhere. He was really, really good. He was their first. He won the Butkus, like I said, and he was one of the guys that started the dynasty. He's one of the guys that started the dynasty.
Yeah, to follow up on that, Corey, I was in school when he was in school and got to see him play. I just remember that '87 season. I mean, every single time you look up tackle. I think he had like 150 tackles that year. And when the year he won the Butkus, I mean, he was a special player. I'm still he got my vote. As much as I love Lamarcus Joyner, you saw he got upset by Lamarcus Joyner in voting, and I think that was a recency thing. Because really, if you go by accolades, as good as Lamarcus was, McGowan should have advanced in our Seminole Madness contest.
Yeah, he had 150 tackles as a sophomore, and then had well over 100 all 3 years. He ranks 3rd all time in tackles, and which is crazy because when you look back in the 70s and 80s, all those guys on that list for single season tackles have like 150, 170. I don't know who was keeping stats back then, or if it's just always one guy, but the tackle stats are crazy, and he ranks 3rd all time. So, and obviously a big time. I wasn't here or covering FSU at the time, but he obviously his reputation speaks for itself.
I'm just going to a random game. To see how many tackles he had. And there you go. I picked the Michigan State game just on a whim. Just went to one game from 1987. Just bet Paul McGowan had good. Yeah, he had 14 tackles, 2 for loss, 1 sack, and 2 pass breakups. That was it's not like I said, hey, wasn't that Michigan State game one of Paul McGowan's best games? Let me go see what he did in that game, refresh my memory. That was completely at random. I just picked Michigan State. My man had 14 tackles. And I'm a big fan of Lamarcus Joyner's too. I guess I get why he advanced. He played 7 years ago. But I was kind of quietly, because obviously that 2013 team is going to be represented throughout in our little bracket challenge. I shouldn't diminish it. Our big bracket challenge, enormous bracket challenge. It's huge. But I was hoping McGowan would advance just for 12-year-old Corey Clark, and I voted for him.
So Mark Adamczyk, I think he's the one that left a voicemail. He says, "Hey boys, it's Matt AMCZ from Warchant. So glad you guys are doing this. Ira, are you really that much better than Aslan at tennis?" Yeah, he is. Next question.
That's not true. That's
Andre
not true.
Elam.
Hold on. Let me clarify because you besmirched your own name on Wake Up Warchant, so somebody has to kind of clarify because I'm the only person there to say it. Every match we have, or every game goes to deuce, and then like it's just add in, add out. It's just luck of the draw usually.
No, it's not.
It's
a choke.
You just play the big moments better. That's what it sounds like. You play the big moments better.
It's Jimbo. It's situational tennis, Ira.
Yeah. You're right. Just play the big moments.
That's all Ira does when he practices. He goes deuce and add. That's all I'm doing. I'm deuce and add. I'm gonna win.
I got to need this.
Hey Gene, how about this one? Andre Elam on YouTube says, give me y'all's take on FSU's defense. I think our defense is going to be fire emoji to me.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's got nowhere to go but up. In the last 2 years, one of the worst defenses I've seen in Florida State history. But, one thing I liked a little bit, we only get to see 3 practices, but I'm starting to really kind of buy into the linebackers at least not being bad. At least I think they can be pretty good this year. And I think what you've got defensive backfield is solid. Look at that defensive line, especially on the interior. When you got the trench mutts, or you got Marvin Wilson, Durden, all those guys. I mean, you've got a really solid interior, and that's where it starts. And I think if somehow Godot can stay healthy and live up to that, Robinson came out at the end of last year. I think this could be actually a decent defense. Is it going to be a top 10, 20? Probably not, but can it be a top 50, top 40 defense? I think absolutely, which would be a dramatic improvement from the last couple seasons.
And if you get to a top 40 defense, which is crazy, I don't know what they finished last year. Were they 104th? If you can make that kind of improvement, which you should with the talent on the roster, I mean, you really should. It's certainly not 100th best roster-wise in the talent, 100th best talent-wise on the roster. So if you can get just to the top 40, we're not asking for miracles. If you get in the top 40 or top 45, don't you think that's the difference between at least 2 more wins? Don't you think? Just over the course of a 12-game season?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to let Aslan jump in if he wants. I always feel bad because we're going in order, letting Aslan hit cleanup. But yeah, I mean, I think that the back 7, I think, should be really good. I mean, the secondary, one of the most interesting things I'm looking forward to going into this preseason, whenever that happens, is like who's going to play in the secondary. They moved Jaden Lars-Woodby back to safety, that safety hybrid, I guess, position. You got Hamza back, Cyrus Fagan's back. You got a bunch of corners.
Travis Jay's
eligible. Raymond Woody, who you just wrote about, he's really talented. I mean, they've got a lot of guys a lot of those safety types. And then I do think linebackers going to be a lot better. I think Amari Gaynor, moving him back to a linebacker position as opposed to that kind of defensive end linebacker thing that they had going. Yeah, I just think that the back 7 is going to be really good. The key, and I think Gene alluded to it, is can they rush the passer with their front 4? Because that's going to be the key. I mean, if you have to blitz all the time, then you're going to be, it's going to hurt your chances in pass coverage. They've got to get pressure with the front 4. So Kendo, Robinson, those guys have to be more consistent. But they'll also get more pass rush from the interior guys this year, because last year when they were playing more of that 3-4, those guys couldn't really just get upfield. They had to worry about reading the offensive line.
All right, well, Corey, you said it too, right? You spoke for the family. You speak for me on Wake Up Warchant half the time, anyways. Yeah, I mean, we set the bar like that for the offensive line last season. It was like, do they have to be one of the best 50 offensive line in the nation? No, but just don't be at the bottom. And they didn't really work that way up. But the same principle applies. If this defense, I think to your point, I would agree with you, Corey. If they're top 50, that's a difference between 7-5 rather, and 9-3, which is exciting to think about. Really, like I don't want to diminish that. 9-3 is awesome. I mean, incredible.
Hey guys, I've got some breaking news here. I got
okay.
Breaking news.
Drop
a couple of buddies of mine just texted a little text thread. According to that University of Washington, going to news, real life stuff. The University of Washington that's been doing those models for coronavirus, they now just put out apparently that today is now going to be the peak for the country in terms of deaths. So, I mean, it's awful subject, but it's a good sign. I mean, things have been trending in a better direction the last few days. If that's true, and if it starts to go downhill now and we keep all this stuff in place, maybe it's a good sign for college football. Maybe it's a good sign for the country. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Somebody posted
breaking the national news. Look at this. Happy hour watching it.
Yeah. Triple Knoll said that he asked Gene this a few weeks ago. Might as well kind of continue on this note. I would like to hear your other opinions. What is a chance that the college season does not happen? I feel like Gene is probably the most optimistic spectrum out of us, and then Ira's right below him, maybe just one notch, and then Corey's kind of like middling, maybe a little bit skeptical, and then I'm even more skeptical than Corey. So let's end off on a high note. We'll let Gene wrap us up. I think there's going to be college football for sure. I don't think it starts in September, though. That's really all I'll say about it. What do you think, Corey?
I don't know about that. I don't. My theory is that maybe there won't be fans at first. And I know everybody says you can't have football without fans. Look, man, you can do whatever you want. There's no precedent for this thing. As the great Jimbo Fisher said, Ira, you sometimes you have to do unprecedented things because we're in an unprecedented crisis. I butchered that quote. That was more of I paraphrased it, but that's what he said a couple of days ago.
Is that what he said when he signed JJ and Malik Henry and DeAndre Johnson and
not cool, Ira.
I'm so sorry.
Not cool.
I just
you Pasadena twice.
That red stripe's kicking in.
You didn't give me the context of the quote.
No,
just ask.
Yeah, it was more about the coronavirus, not about quarterback recruits.
Okay.
I should have specified. No, my whole thing with my whole theory when it comes to all this is if there's testing and there's rapid testing and there's no reason to get back to normal by the fall, I think. And so, and of course, these colleges are going to do everything in their power to have a college football season. So I think my percentage of them not having one, I'm at like 12 to 15% of them just not having a college football season. I think there will be one in some capacity. It might be altered like we've never seen it before.
Ira?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting more bullish as time goes on. I mean, a week or two ago, I was really concerned. Things look so bleak. I thought this week, in terms of, you're starting to see the impact of social distancing and all the things that they're doing. And then you hear more and more about these antibodies tests that are going to be coming online soon and the therapies and all of that. I mean, it's just, you feel like there's going to a chance to return some normalcy. And if that happens, I think there's going to be college football. Now, I could see it, like you said, maybe a little bit later. I heard some people say maybe the spring, playing a college football season in the spring. I think everything's on the table, but I do think at some point we're going to be playing college football. I have a hard time believing, because at the end of the day, like we've talked about this, we wrote about it earlier, I guess last week when I wrote about the finances. I mean, there's not really a plan for if there's no college football. Like, I don't know if athletic departments can go bankrupt, but that's about what would happen. So I'm with Corey. I think they're going to play at some point.
I didn't even say they're not going to play. I just said it's going to be a little bit delayed. You guys are acting like I'm saying there's going to be no football.
No,
make everybody feel really good at home.
But I'm with you. I never thought there was going to be completely no football. I mean, but again, I totally agree that we have no idea what way, shape, or form it's going to take. Could it be in the spring? Could it start in October? Could it be just a conference-only schedule? Could it be without fans? There's all these different variables. But I've always thought about following the money. And as Ira pointed out in his story, go back and read that on Warchant if you haven't seen it. There's way too much money at stake to just scrap and say, you know what, we'll wait a year, we'll come back, we'll do it. If there's a way to pull this off and still the players and the people involved to be relatively safe in battling this virus, then why wouldn't you do it? Now, the TV-only scenario, people go, well, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, so you're not going to take, instead of maybe you make $50 million out of football, you're only going to make $20 million because you're putting it on football. You're going to say no to that? That's ridiculous thinking in my mind. So, and again, if the curve goes down and we're down that number, you can adequately test all the players, the staff, hopefully the media members. Hopefully we're allowed to go. I'll submit the testing. I want to be there. So yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Again, we just have to be open in how that's going to happen.
Aslan, I got a question for Aslan.
I'm getting another beer, so go.
Hey, get me one. Not one of those though.
Got it. What do you want, Ira?
Not one of those. Actually, I don't want any beer in your house, Gene.
That's offensive.
I can't do it. I'm not drinking sludge. Aslan, I think you're closest to the fan experiences of any of us because you were a student more recently, obviously. In terms of like people keep saying or I've seen some of these athletic directors who are like, we can't have college football without the fans and whatever. I don't know, man. I don't have it would not be what it normally is, but would it diminish your experience if they just panned on the field, if they didn't, I'm not saying TV has to go up and show the empty stands, but if they're just playing the game on the field and that's what you see, is it really that much of a different experience?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, listen, I'm going to watch it. Everybody's still going to watch it. I think I saw a poll on the scroll of ESPN.com that said like 74% of people said they'll watch without fans in the stands. They'll watch it on TV still, which I think is a gross underestimate number. I mean, everyone's going to watch. Everyone's so hungry for football. But I think just think about watching like a spring game, like the 2019 spring game. Not Willie's first one, but like the last one. And then take that even further down a notch. That's what it's going to feel like, at least for us in the press box. And I think for fans at home watching on TV, I was watching ESPNU and they were showing Texas and LSU week 1, blimp shot, Darrell K. Royal Stadium, 100,000 people. And I was just like, that is not going to happen anytime soon. And it's going to take away from the feel of it. I don't know even as a competitor how you can be as dialed in when the stress and the strain of like 80,000 people screaming down on you is not there. It's part of the game, but they're going to play it and we'll take it, what we can get. I don't think we're going to put an asterisk next to things like, yeah, they started off the season 5-0, but that was because it was only an empty crowd. Once they started putting thousands of people in there, then they started buckling. But we'll take it, but it's going to be so foreign and just, I don't know, it's going to be lacking something for sure.
Yeah, but it's better than lacking a season. We all agree on that. It's better than lacking a season. I talked about this on Wake Up Warchant. There has to be some critical thought by the decision makers when it comes to this, because what's going to happen in the fall, somebody is going to test positive. The nature of the virus is somebody on some team will test positive. There's 120 FBS teams. I can't do the math. 80,000, 8,000. I don't know. How many football players is that? A lot. Sorry, that's Georgia Public School right there. It's a lot, thousands upon thousands of college football players. One of them is going to test positive. What you can't do is just shut it down because one dude tests positive. But it's not what it was when Gobert got it. When Gobert got it, yeah, man, it was just starting. It was exploding in our country. And it was the right thing to do by Adam Silver to just say, let's shut it down. Let's suspend it till we get a handle on this. By September, October, we'll have a much better handle on this. Plus a lot more testing and hopefully some antibodies that we can give people. And I think you can't just be so reflex oriented of, oh, somebody tested positive, shut it down. You've got to think better than that. You've got to treat them. You've got to test everybody on the team, make sure they don't have it, and then treat that kid like he's got a really bad ankle sprain and just can't. You can't, because what's going to happen, somebody's going to test positive. And if they're not willing to play when somebody on some team tests positive, then you can't have a season. So they have to think critically and come up with scenarios for that stuff to happen, because it will happen.
Mike Guile with an assist to Corey. Corey, 120 times 85 equals 10,200. I didn't know it either.
Isn't that what I said? That's exactly what I said.
It's close.
You were 80,000. You weren't sure.
I was thinking of, it's close, 80,000 strong. It's close.
Let's see here. William Moore says, I love this four-way duo. In my opinion, you guys are the best, not just college football, but all of football. Hashtag Go Knowles.
Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
Well
Appreciate
said.
that, William.
Hey, while Aslan's looking for questions, one more thing I want to say on that topic. I do think students are going to be back this fall. I mean, because people keep asking the question of, well, would they play if they don't have students back? I think the students are going to be back. I really think that within the month, I mean, it seems like in the next month or so, they're going to work on, slowly getting people back into normality. Now that in that process may take several months, but I think students are going to be back on campus in the fall. I don't think campuses are going to be empty now for the next 8 months till January. That's my.
Ira, I hope you're right, because my daughter's supposed to start at FSU in the fall, and boy, we need it. We need to get, no offense, I love my daughter. We need to get her out of the house.
Sure, the feeling's mutual.
Yes, it definitely is.
I think Richard Bass is probably trying to stump Corey. He says, this show is awesome, man. My dad played for FSU football from 84 to 87. His name is Eddie May, number 91. He passed away 3.5 years ago. I miss him badly.
Is that I do not remember an Eddie May. I'm sorry. Who is it? Richard Bass?
Yeah.
I think we can drink to him though.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, we can drink
to your father.
Yeah,
Cheers.
I'll drink a clock.
No.
To you, Eddie.
Let's let's see here. What's this 4 hour? Gator Kirk with another question. What impact will the new 4 hour contact rule have on continuing the Norvell process, strength and conditioning, and drills for the players? Is that a real thing, a 4 hour contact rule? What's that about? I haven't heard about that.
The only thing I think, and I'm forgive us if we're ignorant on it. I know that they're talking about working on different availability times for coaches during this process, for coaches to have contact with their players and virtually and have meetings and that type of thing. So I'm not sure. If that happened, I apologize for us not knowing the details, but yeah, I mean, I think they're working on how much time they can actually interact with players during this downtime. Because at first they were like, you can't do anything, which was kind of crazy.
Yeah, we interviewed DJ Matthews, and I was like nervous to ask him anything. I didn't want to get him in trouble. Like, hey, like, when's the last time you spoke to coach? And then, like, well, I can't speak to the coach, but we managed to dodge that one. Hey, let's get Gene involved. But first, I want to ask Corey this, and then Gene can come off the top rope, because I know Corey loves talking about quarterback play in April. The number 21, the person, his name is 21, him or her. From what you guys saw in the few spring practices, does James Blackman really look that much more improved from last season? What is your quarterback depth chart prediction? Come on, Corey. This is where you shine.
That much improved. I don't know who was saying he looked improved, but I don't think it was any of the four of us necessarily. No, not really. He didn't look, but it was 3 practices and only one was in pads. And Jordan Travis didn't even throw in the third, the one in pads. So it was basically just Rodemaker and Blackman switching. And I thought Blackman looked better than Rodemaker, but that's to be expected. I guess right now I would say it's Blackman, Travis, Rodemaker, Purdy. But it really doesn't matter because once August starts or whenever preseason practice starts and they have 30 days to get ready for the season, I think it's going to be 4 dudes battling for it. I really do. I don't think one has a leg up over anyone right now because none of them have a history with this coaching staff. So I'd say right now Blackman, just because he got the reps with the ones, and Travis didn't play much in the full pads practice. But I don't really think there is a depth chart right now, and that's
Gene
not my
Williams,
depth.
What's your depth chart?
Yeah, I mean, hate to give it to Corey, but he pretty much nailed it. I mean, 3 practices in, you could tell it's a new system. I mean, nobody looked great, to be honest with you. So, I mean, really 99% of how the depth chart's going to work, that's going to be the preseason practices when they start up. So, I don't know. I mean, I really thought maybe Jordan Travis was the guy, but then he didn't play that last practice. If I had to say right now, if you're just saying guess, I'll say Jordan Travis 1, Blackman 2, Rodemaker Purdy, but your guess is as good as mine.
Let me ask you this, Gene. The things that have been holding James Blackman back, I guess, are those things that can change? Are these coachable things, you think?
I think so with him because I mean he's got the talent. I think it's just I think it's more with him. It's between the ears, especially because he's very emotional. You see that how he handles stuff. I mean, the old thing you hear about like pitchers have to have a short memory. When they get a home run, they got to get right back and get it. James Blackman does not have a short memory. When he makes a bad throw or a bad read, he wears it on his sleeves and it affects the next play, and it snowballs. So if there's a good coach who can go in and kind of mentally recondition him, maybe he can get back to do it. So I think coaching could, but again, we don't know. We need to see Norvell and the staff work with him a little bit more to see if that's something that can resonate with him.
What about you, Ira? Like, is James Blackman, is he salvageable?
The bowl game really, I think, crystallized things for me. If you looked at the way the Arizona State kid played, he's a freshman, didn't have a ton of yards, didn't have a ton of touchdowns all season, but he just didn't throw the ball to the other team. And to me, that's the problem I have with James, because on the one hand, I would say, they need to at least have James play in the first few games, let him be the starter early in the year, because you would think the guy who started so many games will give you the best chance against the West Virginia, against the Boise in those first few weeks. The problem is he can get you beat. I mean, he can kill you with those turnovers. And that was what bothered me a little bit in those first few days of spring, is he was still turning the ball over, and inexplicably, like, he just doesn't throw the ball away. I think if again, the Arizona State kid, if it's not open, if they give him like one or two reads, and if it's not there, that kid throws it out of bounds. Nobody can catch it. James has never been that way. His whole time with 3 or 4 different offensive coordinators, it doesn't matter if it's not there. He's just going to throw it over the middle and take the chance, and it ends up getting picked off. So to me, if you think the defense is going to be really good, and if you think you can run the football, which I think they'll feel pretty good about because the interior of that line is pretty good, and because I think Jashaun Corbin's a really good running back, and if the defense is going to be good, then you can't have the quarterback beating you. So I think that opens the door for one of the younger guys. So, I mean, again, I just think that's who James is. We haven't seen anything in 3 or 4 years to where he can manage a game and take care of the football. And I just don't think he makes enough good plays to make up for that.
And didn't he have the that last practice we watched? I think there's a play in the goal line, right, where he threw it right. It was almost a replay of the game against Arizona State where he threw it right into a linebacker's hands with nobody around, which would have been the guy dropped it. It would have been a pick six.
He did. He did. Why you got to bring up old stuff, Gene?
That's all we got to go on, Corey.
That's true.
Ira, how come you said Jashaun Corbin? How come you didn't say Kalen Laburn first?
That's a good question. Yeah, I feel bad sometimes about Laburn, and I think we're going to write about this at some point during the offseason, just this topic with Kalen Laburn, because, he's I think some people, including myself, sometimes have started to kind of dismiss him because now he's been on campus for 3 years, and other than that play in the spring game, hasn't produced a whole lot. And
Virginia Tech game, he had that
Virginia
screen
Tech
pass to him.
You're right. That was a nice play. The nice play in that game. So it's probably unfair. He has been banged up at times, but it's just hard to say he's going to do it. And I know just Jashaun Corbin, I think he's more consistent. You got a call?
We got a phone call. Let's see who this is. This is the second ever live phone call on the Warchant Happy Hour. Who is this?
My name is Evan McCool.
Evan McCool.
Awesome.
That's a pretty
good name.
Cool. That's a strong name. Evan, what's on your mind, man?
Oh, I felt like I needed to add my story in. I'm a lifelong fan. Went to school there for, unfortunately only 2 years. Life events happen, things change, but a lifelong fan. And my biggest memory was the 2013 National Championship game. I'm in the Navy, and I was deployed, and we were sitting in the Arabian Gulf, and luckily got to have the game streamed to the ship. Mind you, it was pretty late or early in the morning, depending on your perspective, but got to sit there with being the only Florida State fan, surrounded by about 4 Auburn fans, and getting heckled, as you can know, for a majority of the game, and then to see us win the national championship really kind of brought my spirits up, and something I'll never forget.
I was in the same boat as you. First half, I was surrounded by Auburn fans. Did you ever lose the faith, Evan? These guys didn't. We were watching the replay last week, and Gene and Corey and I were like, never in doubt. 21-3, never in doubt. Did you ever have any doubts, Evan?
I thought with the team we had, we always had a shot. I got down at times, mainly due to who I was surrounded by. But at the end of the day, I knew that team was special. I mean, I've been watching Florida State football since I can remember early as back as 1988, 87. And that team was special. And I knew that we could come back, and it was just so amazing to watch.
All right, man. Well, Evan, we appreciate the call, but even more so your service, man.
What's he drinking?
What are you drinking, Ira asks.
What's that?
What you sipping on this happy hour?
Oh, this happy hour. I'm just enjoying being alive, honestly, with this pandemic going on. Currently, I am not sipping on anything, unfortunately.
You and the 5 of us and everybody else that's watching and listening. Evan, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
All right. You have a good one.
You too.
Go Noles.
Hey,
Thank you, Evan.
Hopefully Evan is hearing this and he can go back and watch the video. But man, thank you so much for your service, Evan. And go back and watch. I don't know if you saw the video. It's on YouTube. If you're on there now, subscribe to the Warchant. It's free. You get alerted. Ira, Corey, and I broke down they did a live broadcast, or not a live, but a replay on ESPNU of the national championship game, and we went back and kind of reminisced a little bit, had some fun with it. So, yeah, good times. And thanks again, Evan.
As
Looks like
oh.
he was sonar technician in the Navy.
How do you know that?
That's cool.
I mean, I just Googled his name with Navy, and it came up sonar tech at U.S. Navy in San Diego, California. Now, there might be 2 Evan McCools in the Navy, but that seems pretty rare. It's not like John Smith. It's a pretty uncommon name. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Call back and ask him what a sonar tech does.
No, that's very cool. And
don't them bats use sonar, Ira?
Isn't that like the guy in the submarine? I mean, isn't that, or like one of those?
So. Bats and submarines use sonar. Is that right?
That's right. What I was going to say was, hey, when we went to El Paso, when Aslan and I were in beautiful El Paso, right? For the bowl game, we met some of the military. We went to that base there, and we met some of the military. And one of the guys mentioned that when they were stationed in Afghanistan, they would actually watch our dumb videos from the field after FSU football games, is kind of another way to kind of feel like they were back in Tallahassee. It's just kind of reminds you of, A, how connected the world is, and B, somebody like Evan, I'm sure that, as difficult a situation that is to be in the service and protecting our country's interest and all of that Florida State football, that's important, how important Florida State football is to some of these servicemen and women. It's just, it's really cool to hear those stories.
And don't you think, kind of piggybacking off that a little bit, isn't that why, and I've been stressing it on Wake Up Warchant, it is important for this country to get back to sports. Sports, it's not just a part of normalcy. Sports is part of so many people's daily lives. It gives them joy. It gives them life. And I really do think that they need to try, obviously not to risk people's lives necessarily, but sports are really important. And you can't just take the next year off and say, oh, well, those Neanderthals that love sports, they can deal with it. No, number one, it's a lot of money, but it's also just for the psyche of the country. It's going to keep us sane. That's my 2 cents.
Hey, and Evan, we're go ahead and email us at support@warchant.com and throw you a free $25 e-card to Garnet Gold for your service and for your good take there on the national championship game.
Look at that.
Is sonar an acronym?
I don't think so.
Doesn't look
look
like
it up,
it's
Corey.
not like
We got a question.
Okay, sorry.
Mario Williams 1, Williams 13's back. What do you guys think about a recent list from CBS that's got Tamorrion Terry ranked as the 20th best returning receiver in the country? Gene, 20th. There's 19 guys better than Tamorrion Terry in the nation?
Well, it tells you CBS Sports, I wouldn't utilize them as a resource. I can guarantee you this right now. He will be drafted. I'll bet CBS right now, if anybody there wants to bet me, he'll be drafted within the top 20 next year's draft.
All right, hey, we got a phone call.
So.
Sorry to interrupt you, Gene. We got a phone
go
call.
for it.
You're a third caller on this live edition of the Warchant Happy Hour. Who's this?
That's all of us who are left, I guess. But hey, Corey Clark had a wonderful story about that 1991 Michigan game. Is that right, Corey?
That is right.
I
Thank
was
you very much
also
for
there.
saying that.
And I went to the game with a buddy of mine from Tampa, where I'm from Tampa. And Diane and Mickey Andrews used to come down every year, and we hung out with them. And Diane had a travel agency. I don't know whether you're aware of that. But we went with them and went to the game, and it was the best game I ever saw, the weather-wise at least. They had a tremendous team. And after the game, we were trying to find a bus, and somebody said, well, you go in that door. So I went in the door, and I'm in the press conference. And I had my face painted up and everything, and I had this FSU stuff on, and they were interviewing Casey Weldon, and I'm standing right behind them on TV, and nobody's checking for credentials or anything. So I'm waving at the camera, and finally they said, who is that idiot back there? And they threw me out. But we had a wonderful time. That was a great experience.
Amazing. Well, thanks for sharing the memory. How you doing today?
Oh,
Are you imbibing anything on this happy hour? Actually, Corey's got a question for you. Corey can hear you, but you can't hear Corey. Corey, what would you like me to ask our caller?
I was going to ask him where his seats were at that game in Michigan. Where did he sit?
Do you remember where your seats were, sir? Do you remember where you sat in the big house?
We were in on the edge of the end zone. I'm looking right at the field where Buckley intercepts the pass and goes in for a touchdown. We're right near that end zone. And the only thing I remember about the big house that day is we were packed in so tightly you could not get out of your seat to go to get a Coke or go to the John or anything. It was crazy. But we were right in that area, so we saw that first play that went for a touchdown for FSU.
Aslan, tell him we were near the goal line. Where,
Corey says that he was on the
I
goal
was
line.
at the goal line where Todrick McIntosh scored.
He was
where Todrick McIntosh scored.
Who was it that scored?
Todrick McIntosh. Corey was on that goal line.
Oh, okay.
The
So
opposite end zone.
he was in the opposite corner because that was in the second quarter, wasn't it?
Yep.
No, it was the
And we were on the bus with some of the players coming from the hotel and or some of the parents, I mean, and the poor kicker who had a horrible game. His parents were sitting right by us, and they're very nice people. Felt bad, and they had their punter try place kicking. Ask Corey if he remembers the punter, who I can't think of his name, but he's a good guy.
Wimberly
from Tampa, and they had him place kick because their place kicker was so terrible.
Wimberly, they said.
Yeah, it was John Wimberly.
Yeah, Wimberly was the punter.
Yeah, and it was Dan Mowry was the kicker.
His folks were patients of mine. Nice people.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the call.
All right, bye.
Yeah, Dan Mowry missed 3 extra points in that game, which has to be a college record, right? I mean, for a Division I scholarship kicker to miss 3 extra points, that doesn't happen. At least in the last 30 years.
What are you gonna do? We all had those days.
Yeah, and he actually turned out to be his last year, whether it was, I guess it would have been 94, maybe 94. I thought he had a pretty good year his last year, but holy moly, that's the reason, Jared. Hey, I'm not putting the Miami loss on Dan Mowry. I'm not. But the reason a walk-on was kicking was because my man missed 3 extra points against Michigan.
All right.
Just throwing that out there, gang. Sorry, didn't mean to bring it down.
By the way, points out that sonar stands for sound navigation and ranging. So I guess
that's what I said. Yeah, that's what I said.
All right.
What's funny about that is I think that was a Trivial Pursuit question, which I know is Corey's favorite game back in the day.
Oh,
yeah, but when I looked up sonar online, it didn't give me the. It just said, "Oh, I guess it wouldn't say if it's an acronym or not." It told me what it was. I looked up the definition. That makes sense though. It's like radar. Isn't that something? That got to stand for something. I know it's a palindrome.
We got a question from me and Mom Flips. Can you tell some behind-the-scenes stories about Willie?
Ooh. Oh boy!
Oh
boy!
Willie can't get that stuff away for free.
I'm on my third red stripe. Maybe
Let's go, Ira. No,
I mean,
maybe someday it'll be appropriate. Maybe now is not the time.
Maybe share some of the travel stories, but that's not really Willie necessarily. And some of the Willie staff.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know. I mean, the thing about Willie and the reason we haven't done like the big, a lot of people wanted us to do the big expose on Willie like we did the Jimbo Chronicles. I felt like the reason we felt the need to do the Jimbo Chronicles is it was so, like, Aslan, you weren't here for Jimbo's last season, but it kind of deteriorated so quickly. And I think
if I was here, it would not have deteriorated. I would have kept you and Gene in line and then leave Jimbo alone. I wasn't here. And that's why we're here now. That's why we're here.
Aslan would have tackled us in press conferences. But anyway, for people like yourself who were removed from it, it just seemed like, man, what just happened here? We just had a guy that won a national title 3 years ago, and now all of a sudden he's leaving, and people are happy about it. So we felt like the need to really kind of explain it. Willie, I mean, do we need it? Do we need to explain what happened? It was a disaster from day one, from the first snap, from the first practice, from the first. I mean, it was a disaster. So, I mean, we can tell some stories at some point, and if we get if I get another red stripe in me, but I don't know. Do we need to? I don't know.
I'm going to get another White Claw. Gene, we interrupt you with the phone call. The whole Tamorian Terry thing being ranked 20th on a list, like there's 19 wide receivers in the nation returning in 2020 that are better than him. That's hard to imagine.
No, like I said, that's ridiculous. And I know Corey's the ringleader for Terry, so I mean I'll have him chime on this. But I will place the bet right now, and wants to bet it with me that he will be drafted within the top 20 in next year's draft.
Well, I definitely take the bet that he won't be the 20th receiver drafted. I bet he goes higher than the 20th receiver
That's
drafted.
what I'm saying.
No, he's a pretty remarkable combination of size and speed. Got to get a little bit better with the hands, but he didn't drop nearly as many balls as people make it out. I think he had 5 on the season, 4 or 5. But you can live with a few drops, very few, if you're averaging 20 yards a catch and you've scored whatever it is, 17 touchdowns in 2 years for a terrible offense.
It is weird because I remember I remember late last season feeling like he had dropped a lot of passes, but then when you go back and look at the Pro Football Focus numbers, which I don't believe in all their numbers, but I feel like the drop passes is probably one they're nailing if they're going back and watching every play, and they only had them for like 4 or 5 or something for the whole year. So, I mean, it was whatever it wasn't a lot. So no, he does get a bad rep. It's just a lot of times it's like it's either a touchdown or a drop pass, so they feel more significant than if.
Can't be true because he had 60 catches and only 4 drops. You know what I mean? So maybe it feels like it's a touchdown or a drop, but that obviously wasn't the case.
No, what I mean is when he drops a pass, it feels like it's a pass that would have gone for a touchdown.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I got
it's
you.
It's not like Rod Owens dropping a 7-yard slant. These are
Rod.
Yeah, Gene just wrote about Rod Owens today. That's why I was thinking
Old
about
school, baby.
Oh, right. I was going to say, don't take a shot at Rod Owens. He
still
has one of the longest catches in Florida State history. The longest, right?
And if you read
he tied Snoop 98 yards against that game against 98. North Carolina.
Mark says, Ira, get another red stripe. We want Taggart tails.
Corey, you obviously knew that about Rod Owens because you read Gene's story that's been up on the site all day, right?
No, I did not. But I did know that. I will read it. Obviously, I'm going to read it. I'm a busy guy. We all got stuff to do these days, right?
We have nothing to do. That's why we're doing this.
It was just what did you? So that was the 2005 class that had Weatherford was a part of that class, right?
No,
Weatherford and Xavier.
He was 04. Him and Xavier Lee were 04. So 05,
right.
05 was the Fred Rouse, Callahan Bright class. So that really the top end of that class as well.
Was it the first Callahan Bright class or the second Callahan?
No, he was only in one class.
Oh, I thought he committed to him twice. He committed to him.
No.
Oh, all right. I thought he went to prep school and then committed to him again.
Well, he might have, but I mean, there was no chance he was getting back.
Credit for 5-star twice that never played was what I remember.
But the good news is that class also had Rod Owens, old school, who overachieved. He was only a 3-star, had like 2 offers, and then our boy Graham Godot was the only All-American from that class, and he's still in the NFL.
Yeah, he turned out to be a good kicker. Did he win his battle? Who did he? No, he couldn't have. Who did he go up against? Janikowski? Graham Godot, do you remember?
I don't think he did. I can't remember who he went up against, but yeah, if he went up against Janikowski, obviously he didn't win.
Yeah, which is too bad. He was great. He was a good punter.
I can look it up.
Great kicker. That 1 year that he kicked, he was versatile, and that's how I like my kickers. Versatile.
Speaking of 2005, should I pull up Funky 5 with Fred, Ira? I think I saw you grinning there for a second. There it is. It's on the screen right now. You guys can't see it, but everybody else at home can see it. My name is still attached to it. You know how many things you cannot pull up on warchant.com from like 4 years ago? But you can pull up the 5 monkey questions with Fred Rouse, so that's alive and well. Thanks, rivals.
So, all right, one quick thing about Fred Rouse, okay? So, when he signed, actually, it might have been before he signed. So, we got a phone call.
Someone's bailing out with a phone call. Thank you. Thank you, whoever this is. Let's take
Fred Rouse.
Let's see here. What's 931 area code? It's Red Rouse. You're the fourth live caller on the Warchant Happy Hour. What you drinking?
Just a bottled water because I just got done cutting the grass.
All right. You're being responsible. We appreciate that. What's your name, buddy?
Tyler, my name's Tyler, and I live in Tennessee, and I was just watching the live video, guys. Really enjoying the content. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Appreciate that, man. What's on your mind, Tyler?
I'm a kind of a younger fan. I was born in '95, so my question is, were any of you guys screaming for Xavier Lee over Drew Weatherford in the past years?
I was. I was wrong, though. We were all probably wrong, though, Tyler. Did you think Weatherford was the right move? Did you want Lee to get put in the lineup quicker?
See, I was kind of young then. My dad, I've followed Florida State with my dad, and but we always had, a huge liking for Xavier because he was that big 5-star recruit, and wasn't Weatherford a 4-star, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
So were any of you guys screaming for Xavier Lee or not so much?
Hang up so you can hear them answer the question because they can't talk to you. They can hear you.
All right.
I appreciate the call, though, Tyler.
All right,
I'll
guys. Stay safe.
Yep. I think, man, just because of what Tyler was saying, it's like Weatherford was the 4-star. We saw his limitations. He beat Miami, but did he really beat Miami? Xavier Lee just seemed like he seemed like a unicorn. Again, these are the whole things that we don't see practice as fans. I was a fan at that time to a large degree. I think I was interning, or maybe I was interning. But you just figured he can't be any worse, right? That was kind of the reasoning that I had as a fan, plus all the measurables and Mr. Florida and all the stats that he had in high school. You figure just put him out there. Let's see what the worst that could happen was. But neither of those guys were all that well, but the offensive coordinator really wasn't that solid either. You had fun with this one, Gene, when we did the recruiting round retrospective, didn't you? You weren't yelling for him, though, were you?
You had those. I don't know about yelling for him, but it was crazy back then because you had those moments. You'd see the Weatherford would have a couple good games, and he'd not look so good. And then we all remember the 2007 Alabama game where Xavier Lee led Florida State to a win over Alabama in Jacksonville. But I think there was a Maryland game where he came on in relief and almost rallied FSU to the win. And you had these flashes where you're like, oh, finally, Xavier the Savior, we called him back then, was going to step up and be the guy. And it just never happened. It was definitely a dark time in Florida State. And again, you look back, had they had a different coordinator, had they had a different quarterback coach, maybe the one or both of those guys could have been big-time quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, though. I mean, Jimbo came in and had the same issues. And the other thing, to me, that was the prototypical example of where everybody feels like there's a right answer somewhere on the team. Like, okay, this isn't working, so we got to go with that guy. There's got to be a right answer. Sometimes there's just not a right answer. And that was one of those cases. My favorite moment anytime Xavier comes up, well, two, really. One was when he came in as a true freshman and we went out there that summer and he called you over because he was mad because somebody had said that he threw a pass 70 yards from his knees. Mm-hmm. And he, like, people on the message boards were saying, no, there's no way he could do that. So he actually called you over. I remember him going, hey, Gene, come over here. And he wanted you to take video or pictures of him throwing a pass from his knees 70 yards. And sure enough, he did it.
Yeah.
It turns out that, okay, another call.
Take the call.
Sorry, Ira. You're our fifth caller live on the Warchant Happy Hour. Are you indulging in a happy hour drink by chance?
Yeah, I got some whiskey and a Kentucky Fire Cured cigar going on right now.
Nice.
Strong. What's your name, man?
My name's Kevin. I'm from Sarasota, but I just want to know if you guys think I'm like a curse for Florida State or not. So it's kind of a weird topic, but basically I grew up loving Florida State. My first game I ever attended was the Wake Forest game. I think it was like 05, 06. I was in fourth grade.
Ooh.
06. And it was the rainy game. We got blown out.
Yeah, you're the curse.
Yeah, and then I actually transferred to Florida State after my freshman year of college. I just graduated last year, 19. So my 3 years were Jimbo last and then 2 were Willie. So am I the curse? It hasn't been listed.
So I'm hugging, man.
Hey,
I want
ask
to
him.
say this.
So he graduated.
Hold on, Corey's got a question. Go ahead, Corey.
Oh, he
I'm
graduated.
going to relay the question to you, Tyler, from Corey. Corey, go ahead.
I want to ask him if he graduated and is he still planning on going to games?
Did you graduate? And if not, are you or regardless, are you planning on still going to games?
I did graduate. I graduated May of 19. And I do plan on. I went to the Boise game actually, so another curse.
Oh, perfect.
But yeah, I do plan on attending at least one a year, just because it's like 6-hour drive and whatnot. But I do plan to.
Okay, Corey's got another follow-up I want to relay to you. Go ahead, Corey.
What was his favorite moment of the last 3 years?
What was
his favorite win?
Tyler, what was his favorite moment from the last 3 seasons?
Not many, but I guess Boston College. I mean, it wasn't a great game, but we did win, so it's just one of the few.
Good answer.
I'll tell you this, Tyler. I felt that way, so this is really long kind of story. I'll try to make it quick. I started liking the NHL when I was a little kid, and the Pittsburgh Penguins were the defending 2-time champions, and I really hopped on the bandwagon. 3rd season, they're going for the three-peat. They're the number 1 team in the entire league. And then they flame out in the semifinals and they lose. I remember I really started getting heavily into the Lakers because my family liked them, like in the late 80s, end of the Showtime era. And then like when I really dialed in was the year they lost to the Bulls in the finals. And then I come to Florida State like in 2002, and it's like, hey man, we've been in national title 4 out of the last 5-6 years. We're going to be fine. And it goes downhill, and I'm like, maybe God just doesn't want me to be happy when it comes to sports teams because everybody went into a drought. But then you're always one good quarterback away, man. You're always one good coach away. You're not a curse. It's not your fault. Listen. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
Right.
All right.
No, yeah.
So we'll be fine.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
We'll be back, man. Thanks for calling.
I listen to Warchant, Wake Up Warchant every day. So
awesome. Gene, did you have something for Tyler before I let him
go?
Yeah,
no, I just think you need to be the Robin Williams. He needs to be the Matt Damon. Give him the big hug. It's not your fault.
Yeah. He was just saying, watch Good Will Hunting. There's a scene there where Robin Williams comforts Matt Damon. Just,
Yeah,
I've
I've seen it.
We're here for
Thanks, Gene. Take care, guys.
All right, thanks, Tyler.
And I would also add, if he's listening now, if he could transfer to get his graduate degree at University of Florida, I think Florida State fans would be thrilled.
That'd be perfect. Or Clemson.
Yeah, right.
Does Clemson offer grads?
And Kyle Tippett.
Hey,
Sorry, go ahead.
What were you gonna say, Aslan? Sorry, buddy.
Well, I was gonna because we interrupted Ira from the phone call. I don't know if he was riffing on something about Xavier Lee stories. I guess telling Gene, hey man, you're taking the wrong photo or whatever.
Yeah, then he wanted him to take a picture of him throwing 70 yards. The other classic moment was, and the question about like whether or not we were clamoring for him was Jamie Gibbons, our guy Jamie Gibbons, who was a young aspiring sports writer at the time, now is in coaching. But he, one day after practice, we're at Bowden's cart, and Coach Bowden, everybody knows, is sweet guy, is usually really accommodating with questions, even dumb questions. He never made anybody feel stupid. And one day, it was after one of those games where Drew and Xavier both played, and both of them played terribly. And I think Coach Bowden said, it was like Monday night, he's like, yeah, we're going to go with Drew again this week. And Jamie asked him, Jamie was like 21 years old. And he goes, Coach, did you give thought to maybe giving Xavier Lee a chance? And Coach Bowden looks at him and goes, son, did you watch the game? It was awesome. Like Jamie.
In Jamie Gibbons' defense, though, because that was the Wake Forest game that he asked him that. Because Xavier Lee started the Wake Forest game, and then Drew Weatherford came in. Well, here are the numbers because I just looked them up from that game. Xavier Lee was 5 of 13 for 61 yards and 2 picks.
Not great.
Drew Weatherford was 4 of 15 for 52 yards and 2 picks. So what did he see out of Weatherford that was like, absolutely, we got to go back to the gunslinger?
It was just, I think his point was like, what do you want me to do? Is there a good answer? I'm going to go with the guy that actually pays attention. I mean, no offense.
Coordinator.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the day he fired that Jeff Bowden was, he was bought out? Wasn't it the Monday after the Wake Forest game?
You can say fired, Corey. Jeff Bowden.
Well, he wasn't really. He still got to keep on coaching for the rest of the year. But what I wanted to point about Xavier, not that anybody cares 12 years later, but so that first game was the Maryland game. He was his first start. Yeah. The dude was 22 of 36 for 286 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and ran for 50 yards on 8 carries. next game against Virginia, they won 33-0, which is crazy. But he was 12 out of 25 for 185, no interceptions, but also wasn't great. And then the next game was the Wake Forest game. And so he started out great when nobody expected anything of him, like Maryland, a spot start. And then the next game when he was the starter, not so good. Then the third game as a starter, oh no. 2007 was the exact same thing. He came in the Alabama game and was awesome. The next week they beat somebody and he was just And then the next week was the Miami meltdown. Like it was like as soon as there were any expectations on Xavier Lee, he crashed into a mountain.
I got two more good Xavier Lee stories.
Hey guys, I got a boogie. I got to roll. Happy hour. See you guys.
Bye, Gene.
Oh,
just two more quick ones real quick. So, and Xavier Lee is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Like he'll come by a practice or come by FSU and it's just as cool and cordial as anybody you'll ever meet. But having said that, two other great moments was one, that Wake Forest game on the road when they were reconfiguring the press box. It was an open air press box and Jimbo is in the coach's box screaming about everything Xavier Lee does in that game. Like he's just losing his mind, screaming, what the F, just losing his mind. And there's fans in the stands who can hear everything Jimbo's saying from the press box because it's open air, because they're doing construction. So that was awesome. Like parents in the stands are like, hey, we've got kids out here. And then the other one was the Miami game, Jimbo throwing those 3 straight passes at the end of that game. He called the same exact play 3 straight times, and Xavier threw it into the dirt all 3 times. I love you, Xavier. Great guy. But those were some tough times. I don't think there was a right answer, I guess, at the end of the day.
Christian Ponder was the right answer.
He ended up being the right answer. Yeah.
The answer. All right, so our boss left. Should we wrap this thing up then?
Let's wrap it up.
So.
Let's wrap it up before Ira gets too drunk.
We had a good question about recruiting, but we probably should have Langston on here to answer it. That's maybe the one sort of thing. It's not probably fair to criticize Mike Norvell, but I do wonder. I mean, people keep wondering about when are they going to start getting really big-time recruits back on this campus. Well, you really can't even have kids on campus right now to really recruit them. But I don't know. Is it a little bit kind of concerning that even this early on, we're not hearing about 5-star guys? I know you're more the recruit, Nick, Ira. Because, say what you will about Willie. At least he didn't have a lot of plans. I don't think he did. But his first plan was kind of like, we're going to go after every big-name guy out there. And now they didn't get any of them because the season didn't work out the way they planned. But at least like there was kind of somewhat of a foundation laid to try to get these guys on board if the season would have worked out well. But looking at the updates from Michael Langston on Warchant.com, use the promo code Warchant30 for 30 free days of access. It's Arrival's 250 guy. It's a 4-star guy. I think there's been 1 or 2 updates on a 5-star. I know that Micah Morris, offensive lineman, is a pretty highly touted guy. But man, where's like the number 1 quarterback in the nation? Where are these guys at?
And that guy just committed elsewhere. Yeah, I think it's Willie they were only 1 year removed from being pretty good. So right. I think Willie had that. A lot of people felt like 2017 Jimbo's last year was kind of an aberration. Hey, Jimbo was 1 foot out the door. The players kind of gave up on the season. They lost their quarterback. I think that was just kind of seen as a blip. This is different now. You're talking about 3 years of mediocrity. So I think Norvell's going to have a tougher time. I do think as he gets into the season, if they show progress, then I think you might draw some interest and maybe lock in some of these 4-star guys. I just think it's going to be a longer process than it was for Willie. Could have flipped it pretty quickly if they could have put a decent product on the field, but he just didn't do that.
No, he did not.
Corey, do you care at all about stars, or do you think it's one of the most overrated things in your industry, our industry?
Are those my only 2 choices?
Well, I mean, I don't know. You go describe it however you want. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, no, I think you want to get the more 5-stars you recruit and get, the better your football team will most likely be. I don't think Alabama's getting a lot of 2- and 3-star guys, and neither is Clemson. That said, not every 3- and 4-star is created equal. But yeah, the higher you want to get. I want to say you want to get 11 of the Rivals top 100.
When we brought you over to Warchant, how many stars were you? Were you a 5-star or were you a 4-star?
You talking about?
And then what was Aslan when we picked Aslan off the trash
Ooh,
heap?
Aslan was a
Dothan.
diamond rough. Yeah. Aslan
That was the $5
I would
DVD
say,
bin at Walmart.
just on the Florida State. Yeah. I would say nationally, I might have been the top 100, top 150, but I think statewide, Tallahassee wide, I was definitely that was the 5-star. You couldn't aim higher.
Aslan was like our Devin Vassell.
Exactly right.
Pulled
Well,
me out of
okay.
Dothan,
Oh.
Alabama. Thank you, gentlemen.
I was going to go with Monte Brandon.
Oh, jeez.
But Vassell works too. I see what you're doing. Vassell works too. That's probably a better comparison.
All right. After all that, I finally got our screens lined up fairly well with Gene retiring, but we're done as well too. We're over an hour and 15 minutes. That's a good happy hour. You even get like an extra round on top of it. I feel this was pretty successsul. I think I would not be surprised if we did this again.
Next time we'll be able to see you.
Yeah, well, you can't see me. Fine, yeah, man. Well, whatever. Ira, you really thanks for hanging out. I mean, Corey's got nothing else going on, but people like you. So
I actually had one of my daughters bring me a beer while we were doing that, just to flex. I could have gone and got it. But
Yeah.
I wanted everybody to know how we roll with the Schofel household.
I went to the bathroom when Aslan started talking about hunting. So I got back in time for the Goodwill Hunting reference, though.
Oh, man. What's
enjoyed
going
it.
on
Thanks
over at warchant.com this weekend, Ira?
Yeah, all right, tell them all about it. Love you guys. Peace.
Whoa.
Just sit there for 2 minutes, Corey.
Wow.
Sit there for 2 minutes.
Wow. That's how he rolls. We got actually some pretty cool stories. We did. I talked to FSU's nutritionist and their academics advisor to talk about how the football players are handling nutrition and handling academics while they're away. And so Marissa, the nutritionist, and Casey King, Dr. Casey King, I think the academic advisor or the person over that department, kind of like the third part of our series. We did a Q&A with Josh Storms, the strength coach, about how he's doing all that during the this hiatus time where the players are back home. But I also talked to the nutritionist and the academics person to kind of see how that process is working. So we'll have that this weekend. We also have Corey, you and Corey interviewed DJ Matthews for the show. I think it's going to be on the show on Monday, but I think we're probably going to run the story on DJ Matthews and kind of how I wasn't on the call. You guys interviewed him. It sounded like mostly talking about how the transition to this new staff has been for him. Yeah. And so Corey will have that story this weekend.
Okay. Very well. Good stuff.
And some
madness, right?
Yeah, and then some more recruiting stuff also. Michael, I think we've gone through every position on his hot board. Yesterday we posted his cornerbacks. And I think the last thing we have to post is probably over the weekend, his top safety prospects for Florida State football in the class of 2021.
Awesome. All of that over at warchant.com. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 if you're not a member. It gets you 30 days of access. Try it. You'll like it. I did. 2003. Here I am. 17 years later. What a time to be alive.
Thanks for doing this, man. Thanks for making it all happen.
It's my job. Sometimes I do it pretty decent. On behalf of Ira, Gene, and Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks for watching this edition of the Warchant Happy Hour. Stay connected to warchant.com. Hopefully we'll see you there.